Hello, everybody. My name is Jane Julian. I'm the programming director of the Port Townsend Film Festival, and I was really honored to be asked to introduce this Q&A following the screening of Eddy's World, which won the juried award at Port Townsend Film Fest this year, and we loved it. So joining us here tonight, we will have the director, Lyn Goldfarb, and her producing partner, Daniel Zimbaldi, and Eddy, of course. Eddy is the subject of this film and Lyn's dad, and Miriam Cutler, who's an extraordinary composer, and she did the music for Eddy's World. So thank you all for joining us, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone has to say. So
Thanks,
Miriam,
Jane.
be our moderator, but I'm going to bounce in with some questions too. And first, before we get too far along, I just want to give some props to Miriam, who is this amazing film composer. She's got a list. She's considered, I guess, to be the rock star of doc scores for films. And she's one of my favorites. Love Gilda, Dark Money, RBG, The Hunting Ground, and Ethel. And I just want to give you a nice shout out for taking on Eddy's World, because Lyn told me that you had a different way of eventually making the music for this film. You want to tell us that story?
Well, okay, I'll keep it short. You know, Lyn and I go way back. I've worked on a couple of her films in the past. And when she showed me a cut of the film, I just thought it was utterly charming and wonderful. And what a terrific dad with a really great story. And so they're really, you know, a lot of times with shorts, there's not a lot of money for music production and stuff. So, you know, I offered up the idea that maybe we could look into my music archives from a lot of my past work and see if there was some stuff that might work well for this film. So, you know, together we figured out, we'd made some choices. You know, I suggested some things and Lyn really liked it. And then it was music edited into the film by myself and one of my comrades, Catherine Joy, who works with me a lot on my films. Anyway, so I'm really glad we were able to find things that really felt like they fit with the film. But the first thing I have to say, Eddy, so what is your secret? How are you so optimistic, and how can you face every day with sunshine? I need to know, because I could use some help in that area. Oh no, he's muted.
You're muted, Eddy.
Unmute yourself, Eddy. Please, because I want the answer.
Okay.
Help me, Eddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. There is no formula. I was always this way, and so I was just born lucky, but I always knew this is the way you should really be. That's
Right,
it.
gratitude, right? Gratitude.
Right.
And Lyn, I was wondering, so, you know, you've known Eddy for many, many years, and I'm just curious, why now? Why did you decide to make this film now?
Well, I think for me, I'd been, you know, making films about interesting people and about important stories, and I was always looking outward. And honestly, it was kind of at the point where I was just had finished a big film, and I decided that, and I kind of realized, oh my goodness, my dad is getting older. He doesn't look like he's getting older. He doesn't act like he's getting older. But he was getting older. And I said, what we should do is we should, you know, do a family legacy project. And so I started actually not as a film, but as an oral history of my dad. And Daniel was filming it, and we set it up like, you know, very, you know, a very professional setup. And as soon as he started talking and, you know, filming him, I was able to see him not just as my father, but as an incredible character, an incredible story for a film.
I know, it's so surprising because I've known you many years, and if I had known that your father was a toy maker, a toy, inventor, I would have, I would have wanted to know about that immediately. I probably would have said, "Why don't you make a film about him?"
Right.
Lynn,
then-
can I bump
Go
in
ahead.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wondered along that same line, did your friends and schoolmates know that your dad invented toys, or was he just like every other dad that, I don't know what my dad does, he goes to work?
Well, kind of a little bit of the combination of both. So when we were growing up, I think everybody knew my dad was a toy inventor, but we were, as kids, my sister and brother and I were sworn to secrecy about toys. So my dad used to bring home toys he was working on, and we would try some out, or we would see things in the making, but we were never allowed to share or,
consultants.
talk about it. So, and then he went to work every day also, so he went to his shop where he had people working, model makers and designers, working for him. So he did go off to work every day and, came back, and we did have toys. Certainly we had a lot of toys around the house, but these were like total secrets.
Of course. Well, so Eddy, do you ever think back about what if you had taken your creativity and your scientific, proclivities and invented other kinds of products? Do you ever think about that?
I actually, excuse me, I actually think about that a lot. And I am so lucky that the choices I have made in life resulted in my meeting my wife and having my kids.
Yeah.
And so I know every choice I made was the right one.
That's really good. No regrets.
No regrets.
Did you learn anything about Lynn that you didn't know from working with her on this film?
I appreciate what she does more than ever. I always admired what she did, but I really knew very little about it. So I have great admiration for
There you
her.
go. Like professional respect.
That's it.
How about you, Lynn? Did you learn anything about your dad that you didn't know?
I think I learned a lot because, filming my father enabled me not to see him as my father.
Right.
It allowed me to get into his world and to see him in a very different way. It was a real privilege, a real honor to be able to do that.
Well, because you probably took it for granted that he was a toy inventor when you were growing up. It didn't register as unusual, probably.
Somewhat, yeah, it was. But also, I didn't see him working.
Right.
When I was growing up. Both my sister and brother, my brother actually is in partnership with my father now.
Oh,
Wow. So they've worked together for many years. And my sister my sister Fran worked for my dad for a while, but Martin, continues. My dad and Martin worked together. But I never really saw my father at work.
Yeah, true.
And if we came even and visited him at work, he would stop working,
So then now you got to film him actually making things.
So I got to film him making things and we were able to be the fly on the wall. We were able to follow him and to see, how he works and see the preciseness. And
it's really scientific too. And draftsman and all these skills,
Yeah.
Machinery.
Yeah, so that was really wonderful. And then to see him interacting also with his friends, which would have been very different if we were there, as his children in the,
Right.
in these meetings and in groups. So it's really, been a wonderful experience.
And Dan, so how did you feel kind of coming into this whole thing, this family unit?
Well, there's two stages to that. There's the personal part of the family unit, but about 30 years ago, I had made this short film about an aunt of mine who immigrated from Italy, turn of the century, and I filmed her when she was 97, and it became a family archive. So when Lyn said I was thinking of doing a family history, I said that's a great idea. We should just get started and see where it happens. And so, and I knew very little about what Eddy had actually worked on besides the teeth and stuff. So when he started to tell the stories, I mean, they really tied into my own childhood experiences. So it was totally a wonderful experience in that way as well, you know. So.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing. You know, oftentimes, as we doc people know, documentaries are about such serious subjects, and it's really refreshing to sometimes be able to see something so uplifting and charming and hopeful. Jane, did you have some questions?
Yeah, I was thinking while you were talking about growing up, would you say, Eddy, that your wife and you raised your kids to, like, with the idea that they should do work that they loved rather than, you know, this is what you should do to make money or whatever?
I think we did. It was not just that my wife and I worked together as far as toys and stuff, but my wife went all the way through college. She never had an opportunity to go through to go to college before she was married, and doing pretty well. And I was able to take care of the kids while working at the same time. She went to college and she graduated USC and got her master's there. So that was
Wow.
a wonderful experience for all of us. And our kids knew that that's what that was what they should achieve as well, because they had the opportunity and to, of course, take advantage of it.
And you were a living example of that. Would you say that's true, Lyn?
Um,
In how you were raised to pursue what you love to do as opposed to what you thought you should do?
Absolutely. I mean, we were taught by, you know, both my parents that creativity, you know, being independent, following your dreams, you know, pursuing what interested you, working hard. I mean, never losing sight of, you know, of the importance of achieving, you know, something important in your life, but that we, you know, that they really respected, you know, creativity and independence.
So
And
Eddy, oh,
optimism.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And optimism, yeah.
I'm just curious, Eddy, what do you think about the state of toy making today, the kinds of toys that kids have and all the digital stuff and the screens? What do you think about that? Do you have any thoughts?
I think I think it's really wonderful. It's an evolution. I mean, it's much more high tech today, but you can still go back to the uh, uh, early toys of children learning at a very early age and stuff like that. I do feel sometimes that when they're old enough to use their cell phones, that they may use it too much. They may watch TV too much. On the other hand, there's a lot of creative teaching on your on TV and that you can get on your cell phone. I had to walk 3 or 4 blocks to the library every time I
Yeah.
wanted to look up something when I was a kid, and now I take my cell phone out and I get the answer in a few seconds.
You're like a millennial.
So they should really appreciate that, and I think they do. I really think they do, because some of the things that they're working on needs that extra
Yeah,
technology.
true. But I think nothing like those chattering teeth. I think they'll never go out of style.
Well, I guess you're right. We won't go out of style. False teeth won't go out of style.
Eddy, I wanted to ask you something about the toys as well. Current day, since COVID, have you been able to see an uptick in toy sales because games are selling off the shelves? Things that we grew up playing are coming back into families this year because of being
Well,
stuck at home.
I'm really not active on that side. I was never a manufacturer, but I am certain that, for example, games, which is really a wonderful way for families to get together, and especially during this period, I'm sure they've gone way up. And I'm
Right.
so lucky to have wonderful games out. And so many games are on your computer where you don't have to buy them, you know, and that's
Right.
very nice too.
Do you
But
think
the-
any of, oh,
But the idea of the family gathering at the kitchen table and playing a game together with their kids is very important. And I'm very proud that we could be a part of that.
oh, that's great. Yeah.
Let's see. So Lynn, did you have a particular favorite toy that your dad came up with over the years?
Oh, I don't, that's really hard to say, as well. Just because when we were different ages, we played with toys in different ways, of course. I mean, I think just that, it's so funny that the teeth has remained something that we all, connect with through the years. And, and that's always been kind of a part of who, my dad is. But, we played with, certainly we like Kerplunk, we played with all kinds of games and played with the vacuum form and,
She also played with a lot of rejects,
You can, maybe they'd sell
Toys and-
now.
toys and games that I couldn't pass on.
right.
Right.
I got a phone call from an old friend in New York who was excited to tell me that she had the chicken that laid the eggs when she was a kid, and her brother had the teeth.
Oh
We
my
were in a
God.
live venue. I would be right now be asking people that anybody who ever had wind up teeth that chattered to raise their hand. I think there'd be a lot of
Right,
people.
Tougher for all of us, I think. at
Oh,
one
yeah.
point.
We do have a question from the audience for Eddy, which is kind of interesting. Do you think your Jewish background had any impact on your inventions?
No, I just want to assure everyone that they're all kosher. And so, no,
Maybe the entrepreneurial spirit, the going out on your own and making something of it.
well, I didn't want to have a job. I wanted to really be an inventor. That's all I ever wanted to be from a very early age. And I made plans to work on toys while the war was still on, because I wouldn't have any money to back me up on anything. So it really worked out fine. It was hard at the beginning, but it worked out great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
excellent.
Eddy, what gets you up in the morning? Do you have some thoughts before going to sleep at night? And what do? You pop out of bed in the morning? What is that like for you?
Well, the first thing I do is try to make sure that I don't get up too early.
That's a good idea.
No, I do have a pad of paper next to me, and I do make notes at night.
Mhm.
And And yes, I do feel a lot of energy in the morning, and I want to get some things done. Just get started.
What are some
And
of
when-
your, oh,
I just wanted to ask, I know in the movie, the reveal of how old you were at the table when that man said, "You're in your 80s," and you were like, "I'm 97," right? So have you had a birthday or two since the film was made?
I've had two. I'm 99 now.
Oh my God.
man, you're really an inspiration.
You are.
I thought I was old. I just, do you, what are some of your newer toys that you've put out lately?
Well, actually, so much of it was redoing some of the older ones and getting them out. And my son Martin does a wonderful job with that. And I just don't work on toys now. I work a lot on items to keep seniors, seniors, and senior from falling down
Oh,
and hurting themselves. So I keep busy on that as well. And, I also write stories, so that helps.
that's going to be great. I noticed on your workout machine that you seem to have invented some kind of those poles that you seem to have added on.
Well, I've got a walking machine that I'm actually using. So,
Yeah,
so that's those are the handles that I made for it.
exactly. So maybe that's another product.
Works out fine.
So Daniel and Lynn, I was wondering if you had any question you'd like to ask Eddy.
Ah,
Is there anything?
Question for Eddy. Well,
Yes.
I don't know. I would say more than a question. I'm envious of the fact that he has a wonderful workshop that he can go to immediately every day and work out his ideas. So, but when we filmed, we wanted to create some sort of intimacy, even though we were in a residential environment. We wanted it to be more of a macro world where you could sort of see into what he was working on and thinking about. So that was something that Scott brought a lot of expertise to. He created a whole kind of camera motion and movement within that macro world, which I think really helps you see what it's like to be in Eddy's process. So all of that kind of stuff was always interesting to me to begin with. And I think we had great luck that Scott was able to work with us and do that. And we had a fantastic colorist as well, who was able to bring all of that to life and give it the flavor of the environment of toys, not just some residential kitchen or something like that, that you could actually get into a kind of cinematic process about what you're experiencing. So
kind of magical. It really made it
Yeah.
very lively and dynamic.
And yet we're really only in one room after the next in the same townhouse that Eddy lives in. Every room in the house, really, and the garage. I mean, we were going to actually even film in the bathroom because he had all these safety devices for like seniors that he installed in the bathroom, but we never really, you just sort of run out of things that you can put into a film. So anyway,
Save it for the ads.
Exactly.
For the products.
Work was wonderful, and it just seemed like the score really fit that. All the lighting behind the toys, in the solar toys in that window. I mean, there's so many striking hyper close-ups. I love that technique. And Miriam, the score, that I just kept hearing the word delightful as I
Thank
watched
you.
the film. And
Well, I found the whole thing very delightful. I mean, just getting to know Eddy a little bit, was very delightful.
And Lynn, were you going to ask your dad any question?
Well, I was gonna, there's a story that we actually never got in the film. Well, actually, there's two stories, and if you could tell one of them. I always loved the fact that you and when you were in the submarine during World War II and you invented your first toys and you took them after the war, you took them to a woman toy manufacturer because women, were taking over, in all the
Oh,
areas,
wow.
during the war. And so if you could tell that story, I think it's a really interesting
Yeah,
story.
it's an interesting story. The first toys that I invented were free educational toys. I had no idea that the one subject that the toy makers at that time, the one subject they did not want were educational items. It's all changed over the years, thank goodness. But at that time, it wasn't. And yet she looked at my 3 items and she really liked one. And she said, I'll take that one. And this is the first time I showed them an item to an outside manufacturer. And I thought it was easy. And I said, gee, that's wonderful, but they're a line. You've got to take all 3. And she
Wow.
says, I don't want all 3. I just want that one. And I thought, well, I could go to any other manufacturer and they'll take all 3. And to this day, they're available. If anybody, I foolishly turned her down.
And
But
you,
that would have changed everything in my life
wow.
if that happened,
And you were too proud to go back to her?
No, she turned it down, and in the meantime, I had 10 others. I figured out very, very quickly, stop with the educational items and make games that you can play, which are an education in
Oh,
themselves.
that's interesting. Wow.
So I have another story that you could tell that nobody has heard, and it's a great story. The story about Elvis, Dad.
What story is that?
The story about making the model for Elvis and Mom.
We knew Elvis because at that time I was working with a great guy, and we did the premiums for Kellogg's, and he also did other things, and we thought it'd be a great idea to make a statue of Elvis, and I did, and it was really beautiful, and well, nothing happened.
Did
Never.
Elvis ever see it?
Uh, I'm not sure. Oh, he would have liked it. We had problems with the mold maker and all kinds of things, and we just finally gave up on the whole thing.
Can you
But he was
imagine?
a very nice guy. To know.
Right. And then in exchange for doing that, what did my mother,
Oh, my Anita, my wife, she had to take care of his mail. She took care of his fan mail for several years.
Oh, how funny. So I noticed in the film that, your chattering teeth and some of your other products were appearing, like there were entertainers that were using them, and, especially the teeth. That's the one that I saw the most in the film. What are your other celebrity promoters, people that liked it and used it in their work?
Well, we never expected the reception that we got. It was really very nice. And so many comedians used them, and so many talk show.
Johnny
And
Carson, yeah.
and I just recently, I just saw that a magician used it in his one of his tricks, one of his acts, which was very nice. And also, who's the author who wrote all of the scary books?
Stephen King? Stephen
Yeah.
King?
Yeah, he wrote a story about the teeth.
Oh my
Oh
God.
man, that's
Yeah,
so great.
But in his story, the teeth were evil.
They were killing people.
Didn't you say it made it?
If
It
it
made
wind
They
up
have to get you. Yeah. So it did get a lot of attention. We never expected it. It was very nice.
Yeah, I imagine the chicken laying the eggs was also really fun. I've never seen that toy. I'd like to, I mean, hint, hint, I'd like to see that
That
toy.
was that was one of my very first, and it retailed for 39 cents. So
Oh,
you can tell.
I missed it. I missed my chance. So we have about 3 more minutes, and I'm wondering if we have any more questions from the audience or the viewers before we wrap up. So, okay, nobody's, I'm just curious, Eddy, are you planning to make another film, Eddy? You know, what's your next role?
Me?
Yeah,
It all depends on my manager, Lyn.
I was wondering if you got bit by the showbiz bug now that you've starred in a film.
No, not really. I can tell you one very fast story if you want.
Yeah.
And that's on the bubble gun. The bubble gun is really just a wonderful toy for kids, but I couldn't sell it to any company. Every company turned it down because they said, why would anyone pay $3, $4 for a bubble gun when they can buy a bottle of bubble fluid for 29 cents or 39 cents and blow bubbles? And then this wonderful guy, John Osher, came in from Cap Toys. That was a very, very new company that I had sold one item to the year before. That was very good. And he said the same thing. Why would anyone want to pay that kind of money? But he came in with his girlfriend, Bonnie. And Bonnie said, John, you're going to make that item. And he says, no, I'm not. Who's going to pay $3, $4 for a gun when they could buy a bottle of fluid? She said, John, you're going to make that item. That's exactly what she said. She said it all for an hour, and finally he gave in. He made the item.
Did he
And
make
now
money?
there are literally dozens of companies making expensive bubble blowing toys for kids.
That's so funny. We have one more question from the audience. Eddy, if you were going to add a tool to your shop, what would it be?
If I were to add what?
A new tool to your shop. Is there something you've always wanted?
I've got a lathe and I've got everything. No. I use a 3D printer, and
Ooh.
that's wonderful for anyone. You don't need a shop in so many cases. You have one of those, and that's been wonderful. And I also, when we were very active, I had a CNC, which did the same thing, but it started with a block, and you carved a block to get what you wanted. Whereas a 3D printer starts with nothing, and it just adds layers and layers to make something.
Amazing.
They're kind of related in different ways, and they're wonderful to have in a prototype shop.
So you're not intimidated by the new technology at all. You know, you're not intimidated by all the computerized technology and
Oh, I look forward to it. I think it's just wonderful. I think it's really great. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But
Well, go ahead.
More than that, in the opening of the documentary, it shows all my solar toys, which I had nothing to do with it. I just buy them at the 99-cent store when they have them. But it just shows the power of solar cells.
It sure does. And it
And
doesn't
this-
drive you crazy with them chattering and clattering all day long?
With my hearing, it doesn't matter. So,
That's the blessing, I suppose.
so So we should really go towards a solar world. The sun is out there and it really could provide all the energy
Everything.
we need. And we
Absolutely.
just have to take advantage of it.
Well, that's a perfect way to end with on a positive note with solar energy. Well, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that when we were filming, we had to turn all of them the other way because they were constantly the noise of the solar toys.
Yeah, it's like
When we weren't filming, when they weren't in the picture, we turned them all
Away from the sun.
away from the sun.
it must have been sad, having them face the other way. And then you had to turn them all back around.
They were in timeout.
Yeah, your assistant had to turn them around.
But before we close, I actually want to just say a couple of things that, we really had a wonderful crew, on this film. And, our editor, Shauna Carroll, was great. We really were able to, in addition to Miriam and Scott, we had
Catherine and
great people.
The
and
graphics, wow.
the graphics,
yeah.
classic, great graphics and animation. And we were really honored, to be with the Port Townsend Film Festival to have won the award. And we won also the jury award at Ross at the Raw Science. Excuse me. We won the jury award at the Raw Science Film Festival.
Wow.
And so it's really been great. And we are now on New Yorker.
That's incredible. How many views have there been?
Right now we are at 712,000 views on New Yorkers.
A documentary short.
I know, it's amazing. Plus 128,000 on GQ Taiwan in Chinese. Been translated in Chinese.
Wow.
And then about another 50 or 60,000 on New Yorker's site. So we're hoping for we'll get to 1 million soon.
Will you be distributing it worldwide or?
Well, right now it's on New Yorker. It's streaming worldwide.
Oh, okay. So not in Japan. I was thinking Japan might really like this too. They like gadgets.
Yeah, no, I really, I haven't gotten any response from Japan yet, but I know they would definitely like it. And we're also
inventor and
educational, we'd love to be able to do educational distribution as well as, broadcast. So it's been really exciting. And it's been really exciting because it's really taken on, on a worldwide expression of joy.
And it's a family business.
And just imagine what kids that could see this movie and think that they could be a toy inventor.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sounds so fun.
I know.
Right? You need to have some apprentices, Eddy.
Yeah, a program like that. I have a cousin that actually went to school in college, studied to be a toy manufacturer and inventor, but he ended up going to aerospace. That's where the jobs are.
A bigger toy.
A bigger toy.
You just got to stay with it. You've got to learn to love rejection.
I know about that. So I guess, are we supposed to wrap up or?
I wasn't given the instructions on the wrapping up part. So.
Oh, I just got a yes, wrap up. We just got the hook. So thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the film, and thank you for including me, and it's great to
Thank
meet
you
you,
very
Eddy.
much. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you all so much. What a delightful film and delightful people. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.